You're alive.
Good afternoon. Welcome again to another IT Web webinar today in collaboration with Pinnacle and Comodo. I'm sure you're here to find out what exactly Comodo is about. I'm also very interested to find out what their advantage in security is. And today we're specifically talking to managed service providers. So if you are looking for a way to provide security to your customers, especially in terms of the top risks out there, including ransomware, this is the presentation you definitely would like to attend. So thank you very much for joining us today. My name is James Francis from IT Web. I will be your MC for today. And before I introduce our guest and topic for today, just a quick few house rules. You are welcome to ask questions in the chat section on the right-hand side. In fact, that's quite pertinent for today because we have quite an action-packed presentation, including a live demo to show how Comodo handles ransomware attacks, and we might not actually get to the Q&A. If there is a Q&A at the end, please, we will answer your questions there, but as well, please use the chat channel. There is actually a dedicated person from Comodo in the chat channel to jump on any question you need to ask him, so please throw it out there and find out more. Without further ado, today's topic, we are talking about protecting your customers against cyber threats in ways other software fails to detect. And specifically today, we are also celebrating the partnership between Pinnacle, the well-known local distributor, as well as Comodo. Now, Pinnacle recently launched its new cybersecurity division called Cybersecurity Solutions. And they scout the world looking for the right partner, the right vendor to bring a capability to the market that you can then, as a service provider, take to your customers and ensure that they are safe and secure. And that partner is Comodo. And Comodo, they will introduce themselves in a second, so I'm not going to go too far into it, but they do have very impressive technology. We are going to learn today about their platform technology, as well as their security operations center as a service offering, and how they go about protecting you, not just from 99% of the threats out there, but that 1% of unknown threats that can come out everywhere. And we know the problem of cybersecurity. You only need one intrusion, and that could be enough to cause serious problems for you. So without further ado, let me introduce our guest today. We're honored to have Dr. Erdal Oskaya. He is the CISO for Comodo. We will also be joined by Joe Yacha, who is the head of partnerships at Comodo, as well as Aditya Acharya, who is a pre-sales engineer at Comodo. And inside the channel, you will find Georgiana Sergi. She is a professional services engineer for Comodo. So welcome to everybody for joining us. I'm going to handle now over to Dr. Oskaya, who will tell us a bit more about Comodo and what more you will learn today. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much for the wonderful introduction, and greetings all the way from Sydney, Australia. I hope you will end of this presentation. I hope you're going to have a wonderful idea of who we are, what we do, and how we can help you to be more secure together with Pinnacle. Let's talk about cybersecurity. We all know that our world has changed. We are not in the same world we used to be just 2 years ago. I think we all know what happened. A little virus, and this time I'm not talking about computer viruses, I'm talking about COVID-19, has changed the world. The way we live, the way we communicate. We used to shake hands. These days, shaking hands is a bit like, oh my God, you giving me your hand? We used to hug each other. We used to go to sports games. Can you imagine the World Soccer Club in South Africa without you being in the field? It was not going to be the same fun. I still remember the beautiful crowd watching all the way from Australia the games. So back to COVID. It changed the world, as I said, the way we live, the way we work, the way we attend conferences, and unfortunately, the way we get hacked. Look, everybody is believing they have the best cybersecurity solutions. They think they are secure, but unfortunately, they are not aware what's happening in the cybersecurity landscape. If you don't believe me, just check the news. There is no single day you will not see a hacked news. Governments, fortune companies, small businesses, individuals, unfortunately, do get hacked. But I can proudly say, Comodo, if you're using Comodo, if you're using our cybersecurity solutions, you will not be in the news getting hacked. So when we look in the news again, you will see that there is two types of organizations. One, they know they've been hacked. Two, they don't. Going forward, there's going to be two types of organizations. One, they take the right steps and implement the right solutions, right cybersecurity strategy, and move ahead. Or two, the ones that are going to be in the news. I don't want to talk too much. I want you to see the beauty of the product. And with this, I will be also in the chat if you have any questions as the CISO for the organization. And you can find me in every social media channel. Just Google my name. I think next is Joe. Joe, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Erdal. Good evening, everybody. My name is Joe Jagcab. I'm head of partnerships with Comodo. I'm currently sitting in New Jersey in the United States, and I'm looking forward to presenting you guys our cybersecurity solution. So first and foremost, I'm going to share my screen for everybody. I'm going to give a brief overview of Comodo and who we are. And from there, I will do a high-level overview of our auto-containment technology, which is part of our advanced endpoint protection, followed by a high-level overview of our SOC platform. And then from there, I'll hand things over to our security engineer, Aditya, who will actually provide a live malware demonstration showing you how auto-containment renders any unknown file or potential zero-day threat from causing damage to a native environment. And also he'll provide an overview of the platform itself. So I will share my screen for you in a moment. All right. So first and foremost, as I said before, we are headquartered in New Jersey, in the United States. In northern New Jersey, we're about 10 minutes from New York City. We've been in the industry for actually 20 years. Though we are new to South Africa, we started out in the SSL certificate space, and after having roughly 54% market share, we sold off that side of the company and are solely focusing on what we're doing now with cybersecurity. So long story short, we created an antivirus, which turned into an advanced endpoint protection with our technology auto-containment, which is the important piece here. And with that specific technology, we have over 250 patents. Majority of those patents are related to auto-containment. We have 100 million agents around the globe as well. So we leverage these agents with our threat intelligence, which allows us to do an analysis on anything that comes across the environment. We do about a million scans daily, and also with over 1,300 employees. And as you can see, we've won several awards throughout the years, particularly for our auto-containment technology. Now, we believe in that one pane of glass, right? We want to make things easier, especially for managed service providers. So we understand that, being a managed service provider, you guys are working in so many different environments, different needs are required for your end users, and it's not always just as easy as deploy and go, right? So we try to make that easier, especially for managed service providers, considering you guys are in so many different environments and it can be quite complex. So just to give you an idea of our platform itself, we have a platform designed specifically for managed service providers, which is multi-tenant, which is called Itarian. Within there is where you would access our advanced endpoint protection, which is what we're covering today. Also, we have our SOC platform, which we're also covering today. And if you're also interested, we do have a cloud-based anti-spam solution for email protection and also a DNS filter. But today we're focusing on the endpoint and the SOC platform. Now, before I continue, to give you a little bit of an understanding of what's involved and what's included with the advanced endpoint protection. So essentially, there's two agents that's deployed on each device. There's a communication agent, which is actually a full-scale ITSM. So not only would you have our advanced endpoint protection, which I'm going to be covering for you, is you'll have an ITSM as well. So there's a service desk and ticketing system that's included. There's RMM capabilities as well for you to remote in and provide that help desk support for your end users. There's patch management, mobile device management, and also automation. So you can automate any process. If you're familiar with JSON and Python scripting, we have those capabilities for you within our platform. We also have a website specifically dedicated to scripts. I can't tell you how many scripts we have, but there's hundreds upon hundreds that we've created for our MSPs that have requested them. So which brings me to my next point. If there is a specific automation that you want to include, or monitoring, or some type of alerting, you can submit a request for our team to create the script for you, and we would do that as part of the service. Then the second piece is the security agent. Now that's a full-scale security stack. Within that security stack is your normal whitelist and blacklist, your normal antivirus. There's a host intrusion prevention system. There's a local firewall. There's behavioral analysis, or we also refer to it as Viruscope, which is our protection against fileless malware attacks. And currently we have data loss prevention, which is in the beta state. That we're including with our advanced endpoint protection at this time. Currently in beta, and do have those capabilities if you're interested in testing it. But again, the important piece here is auto containment, and that's what's in place for anything that's unknown or any zero-day threat that comes across. And then on the ladder here, we have SOC as a platform. This is our SOC services and technologies that's can be taken advantage of within the same platform here for MSPs, where you can add a managed detection and response to the endpoints that have our advanced endpoint protection. You can also have us take on the network traffic if you wanted us to monitor that and alert and notify if anything that comes across there, or even network appliances and cloud applications such as G Suite and AWS and Office 365 can all be monitored and included with our security technologies within Itarium. Now, this next slide is just to give you a visual on where auto containment fits in within the industry. So this goes through the evolution of cybersecurity, right? Everybody had in the early 2000s, you had your whitelist, your blacklist, your good, bad, your normal antivirus, which the industry's detection rate average was 40 to 60%, which is obviously not good. Now this is your whitelist, your blacklist, your good or bad. So you started to see vendors add into that security stack throughout the years. So as we moved on, you started seeing behavioral analysis and sandboxing, host intrusion prevention systems, which brought that detection rate to 90 to 95%. Still better, but not good enough. Today, through artificial intelligence, machine learning, and in EDR, there's a 99% detection rate today, on average, which is pretty good, right? But that 1% security gap equates to all the unknowns, equates to all the 0 days that are created on the thousands every day. There's thousands of pieces of new malware created every single day that's never been seen before. You know, EDR technologies and all these alerting is great for notifying you if something's happening, but what do you do if an unknown threat is in your native environment and starts causing damage? And that's where we come in. That's where auto containment comes into play. Auto containment is to fill in that 1% security gap. And this is part of our patented technology. So we're the only vendor that works off of unknowns. And what I mean by that is if a file is simply not on our whitelist and not on our blacklist and gets through all the other layers that I mentioned before, we by default deny it from entering your native environment, but allow it full access to auto containment, which I'll explain to you what that is in a second. And that's very important because what other vendors do is if a file is unknown, it's not necessarily bad or good. It could be both. They allow it into the native environment, and then they look for some form of suspicious behavior or malicious indication for you to essentially quarantine it or maybe use a traditional sandbox to do an analysis. That's not a good way to approach unknowns, considering what's going on today. So that being said, if a file is unknown, we don't know what it is. It's not good or it's not bad. We by default deny anything unknown from entering your native environment, but allow it to access auto-containment, which is a replicated space within the kernel of the endpoint. So within the kernel of the endpoint, we replicate three things that any malware or any potential threat would need to thrive. And that's the endpoint's hard drive, registry, and COM interface. We give this unknown file full read and write access to these three key components within the kernel of the endpoint. And while we give that unknown full read and write access to these three key components, which is, again, a replicated space within the kernel of the endpoint, not the native environment, and can't cause damage to the native environment, this works in conjunction with our threat intelligence, Valkyrie, which I mentioned before, pulls from the 100 million agents that we have around the globe. So if an unknown file is in auto-containment, it's working in conjunction with Valkyrie. Valkyrie is leveraging the data from the endpoints that we have to run the dynamic analysis, and then we also run a static analysis within the endpoint to see, if we can make a determination via our threat intel. So 95% of the time, we can determine through Valkyrie if a file is good or bad within 45 seconds. What's unique about what we're doing in our technology is, yes, everyone's, it's great to have automation. It's great to have technology in place to instantly, provide a task for you. In this scenario, we're determining if a file is good or bad, which we can do that majority of the time. Our threat intelligence is only getting more advanced the more endpoints we're adding to our network, right? So we can determine if a file is good or bad within 45 seconds. If Valkyrie can't make a determination within that time frame, what's unique about what we're doing, and I'm only talking about our endpoint protection right now, is our SOC team is also there to provide an analysis on anything unknown that comes across your network if Valkyrie can't make that determination. So what I mean by that is if someone clicks on a file, we don't know what it is, goes through Valkyrie, we still don't know what it is after 45 seconds, the hash of that unknown file gets assigned to one of our human analysts on our SOC team. They have an SLA of 4 hours to reverse engineer that file. So either way, you're guaranteed a verdict 100% of the time, and anything that comes across your endpoints, which is very important. Now, some do conceptually compare this to a traditional sandbox. Much, much different from what we're doing. This, on average, is 1 to 3% CPU usage, so extremely lightweight and robust in comparison to a full VM. This is an automated process, so you're not manually taking that unknown and putting it into a sandbox for machine learning or an analysis by a security engineer. We fully automate that process. If a file is unknown, it gets through our layers. We're putting it in auto-containment. Also, as I said before, we guarantee a verdict 100% of the time. So we're doing that analysis for you. We're doing the legwork, fully automated. And the end user will still maintain access to any unknown file that's associated, or unknown hash, could be a macro attached to a Word document or Excel spreadsheet. Let's say your end user or yourself was anticipating that document. Your productivity would not be hindered whatsoever. You can still safely access that unknown file in a shared space folder that gets created, which you'll see during our demonstration. Now, to move on to our SOC platform, this is the second piece. So for our managed service providers that are looking to get into the security space, managed security service providers, and you're looking to provide cybersecurity as a billable service, we are making this easier for you. Now, we all know I talk to managed service providers every single day. I work with hundreds of them. A lot of pain points that they tend to experience when working with SOC platforms are SIM tools. There's log fatigue, right? There's all types of onboarding issues. There's a lot of upkeep. It requires manpower. It requires all types of resources that could be very time consuming and take you away from your day-to-day job, which could be finding more business and prospecting and getting new clients. Where we make this easier for you. So we rely on essentially three things. We rely on people, process, and technology. The people is certainly our security analysts and our SOC teams that are monitoring and taking a look at the information that's provided within our tools with our partners. It could be your security operations team. So, it could be a collaborative effort where you're leveraging our SOC team to provide you alerts, notifications, escalations are handed by you, or vice versa. For our clients that have our advanced endpoint protection, we can add a remediation to that as well. So if you have our advanced endpoint protection deployed to 300 devices, with a click of a button, you can enroll those 300 devices into a managed detection and response service through our SOC platform. And from there, those devices will not only be protected, but they'll also be monitored by our security analysts. So in the case of an emergency, our security team is there to prevent any damage from happening within your environment. Our process could be just escalations, as I said before. So maybe your security operations team wants to handle the escalations. They only want to use us for alerting and notifications. We can certainly provide that for you. Our technology, again, our threat intelligence and Valkyrie and the way we look at unknown files is associated with all of our security technologies. So we leverage that with essentially everything that we're offering. Now, not only can we add the managed detection and response service to those endpoints that have our advanced endpoint protection, certainly our most popular because it's so easy to onboard with a click of a button, but maybe you wanted to add Office 365 monitoring. You could certainly do that with your custom token for your environment. Simply put in your credentials and you're set up from there. Very easy. We can also deploy a network sensor. So if you're interested in, or your clients may require for compliance reasons that they need that full visibility into the network traffic, we can provide a full packet inspection or deep packet inspection of the metadata of the network traffic and set up the queries and alerts and notifications to provide you that visibility, which also goes with network appliances such as firewalls, IPS, IDS sensors, can all be sent to that same sensor, because not only does it do a full packet inspection that provides IDS technology with it, but it also serves as a log collector. So if you wanted to point some of your network appliances to the sensor for us to retain those logs, we could certainly do that with our SIM. I forgot to mention, this is also a SIM tool that we have built within our own development team that's included with this. Now, this is a multi-tenant platform as well, as I mentioned before. So with iTerran, you'll see that it is multi-tenant, but also within SOCAP. So you'll have that visibility of all of your clients to give you that grand overview of your different reporting needs. Maybe there's specific escalations pending. You'll have that visibility within that platform to take a look, to have that visibility over your environment and your customer base. This is how the alerts would come in. So as I said, it's primarily utilized as a collaborative effort, right? So, we would have access to those endpoints that have our advanced endpoint protection, but it's still going to require an interaction with your team. So this is here is where you would communicate with our SOC team. So the notifications would come across. You would have a severity level from high to low with the description as well with that severity level and exactly what's included in that alert and why we're alerting you, and also give you steps on how to remediate. And also a communication portal with our SOC team. So maybe there'd be specific questions that you may have. You would directly communicate with our SOC team with these alerts within this portal that you're looking at here. Our platform also allows you to provide reporting. So, you can custom tailor reports for your clients on a need by need basis. And, if you have questions or some specific requests that you would like to provide to us on some of the reporting, we can assist you with that as well. Now, again, this is our security operations as a platform where essentially we're leveraging our service and our team to provide that extra eyes and ears and make your onboarding easier to provide a cybersecurity service to bill your customers for. So essentially, how we're modeled our platform and our licensing is to make the lives easier for managed service providers. So we have a great partnership with Comodo, which obviously they have a strong presence in the South African region, which is kind of new to us, which we're expanding. And we've made it easier for our MSPs and also for MSPs in South Africa to work with Pinnacle, where all you have to do is reach out to them. They provide a link for you to sign up to our platform, and all you have to do is just deploy our agents to your devices and go. And then on a month-to-month basis, you would receive a bill based on your usage for your endpoints that were deployed to. And we try to, as I said, our main goal is to protect everybody at a very high level, but we want to make it easier for managed service providers to go on with their day-to-day and onboard and as easy as possible. So without further ado, I will hand things over to Aditya, who is our security engineer. He is going to provide a live malware demonstration, and he will also give you an overview of the platform as well. Any questions, feel free to ask in the chat, and our team will address it for you. Thank you very much.
All right. Hey, guys. So let me share my screen. So just give me like 1 minute. I hope my screen will be visible in a minute there. All right. Can you guys see my screen there?
Yes, we can.
All right. Perfect.
Loading up. Hold on. It's loading up.
Okay.
I can't see it. It's black.
Black. That's loading up. I guess.
Sharing it back again.
Please.
Right.
Yes, now we can.
All right. Perfect. Hey, guys. So my name is Aditya. I'm the security engineer with Comodo. Now, for this discussion, pretty much I'll be showcasing whatever Joe has spoken till now in a very real-time way. So I'll get into the malware demonstration. I'll show the endpoint side, how things works. And then I'll get into the platform itself, wherein I'll show you the feel of the product and what and all things we offer and things like that, right? Now, any questions, you can drop it in a chat or we can take it up later also, not a problem. To begin with, we are a multi-tenant solution. We support Windows, Mac, Linux, and also when it comes to the mobile device management, MDM side of it, we also do support Android and iOS there. Now, I'll be majorly dealing with the Comodo's advanced endpoint protection offering. So when it comes to the AEP, so the discussion itself revolves around two major aspects of AEP. One is the security aspect. The other one is the ITSM or the endpoint manageability of it. Right. So combined together, it's the AEP what we offer. Also, in the endpoint, you would need to install two major agents. One is called communications client. And once you install the communications client, you should have the RMM abilities like remote device takeover, maybe similar to Teamweaver, Logmain kind. You can do the patch management, understand the software inventory in the endpoint, and basically many other things like that, right? Further, there's a second agent called client security. The UI looks something like this. And this, when installed in the endpoint, it will monitor the endpoint itself for various of these security layers, which you're seeing in here, right? Just to go in a very brief manner on few of these security layers, when it comes to antivirus, this is for detecting any known malicious incidences. And it's a signature-based detection what we'll be doing. And then there's this firewall. It's a software-based firewall which we offer. So with this, you should be able to monitor your inbound and outbound traffic, maybe define ports and things like that. Now to skip on to the HIPS module, the host intrusion prevention service as we call. Now this is the heuristic analysis engine of Comodo. It's especially used in order to prevent any of the fileless malware attacks, be it like script-based, VB scripts, partial-based scripts, memory-based attacks and things like that. And then there is this virus scope. This is the behavioral analysis engine of Comodo. It works in parallel to all these security layers in order to feed a good amount of intelligence to our verdicting system called Valkyrie. And also, It is used to locate indicators of compromise, especially of the files whichever are running inside something called auto containment in here. And then coming to auto containment. Now, this is the very important security layer indeed. Why so? Because any of the unknown file executions or a zero-day events happening in the endpoint, we make sure to prevent it using this auto containment technology. It's a patent technology of Comodo. Having said that, in Comodo, we have a zero trust architecture wherein known good files we allow, known bad files, we use any of these layers to stop it. And when it is unknown file, we specifically use this auto containment to stop it. That way, you'll have a complete protection. Right? Further on, I'll be deep diving into these technologies. So I'll run a real ransomware instance for you. Now, I have a sample ransomware, but it's a very real one. It's called Cryptic, which is an encryptor. And as soon as I execute this Cryptic, if you notice, in the right top corner, I have my widget in place, kind of like a shortcut you can call. You can switch it off as an administrator if you want to from the endpoint itself. But the first window there, it says one application is running inside this container. I click on it to see what that application is. Now, in the center of the screen, there's a window. And this is the tamper-proofing window which you're seeing in here so that the end user do not make any changes to the agents. If not, uninstall the agents also. And I enter in the admin password, which is defined in the portal itself. If you notice, the Cryptic, whatever I executed, that's opened inside this containment in a fully virtualized mode, simply because the rating on that particular file is known to be unknown. Now, as an administrator, you can simply right-click on it and get into show activities to see in a real-time way how this particular application has been executing upon in the endpoint. It's a process-level execution, what you're seeing in here. And as you see, it's been loading a few image files, creating files, doing kernel-level changes, further many, many more things. But my focus of the discussion would be the child process, the wordpad.exe, which it created. Somewhere in the process line, it should be here. Right? Now, to focus on the WordPad itself, if you notice, the rating given by us is trusted. And in spite of this being a trusted file, it's still open inside this containment, simply because it's a child process of a parent process, which is an unknown file executing inside this containment. And the WordPad is a trusted Word document, which is in the background. Now, there may be a case where the end user will have to work on such Word documents itself. And we allow end users to actually access these files and work on it, their files itself, so that their productivity is not actually hampered, as you see. But just as a kind of like a differentiator, we give a green border surrounding it, indicating this particular application is also open inside this containment in a very safe mode. Right? Further on, to reiterate whatever Joe has said so previously, when it comes to verdicting of any of these file executions happening in the endpoint, 95% of the time we make sure to verdict any of these files within like 45 seconds. And the rest 5% of the time, it's usually when it comes to advanced threats, anomalies, false positives and all. In that case, we have our own SOC team who do a reverse engineering on any of these files which doesn't get verdicted within like 45 seconds automatically. And then they make sure to verdict these files within a necessary of like 4 hours. Also, if you have any suspicious files in your endpoint, if you want an analysis on it as an administrator, simply log into valkyrie.comodo.com, which is our verdicting system, and submit those files, and you will be able to get a human-backed analysis back again from Comodo's end. Further on, as we are speaking about this, final ransomware message came up saying my endpoint is blocked, but again, it's in a green border indicating it's in a containment. I'll sideline it. Now, how does this containment work? So for this containment, we temporarily virtualize 3 major components, the COM interface, registry, and hard disk. And these are your endpoint resources, what we are utilizing. Basically, we use something called kernel level API virtualization to mimic the entire endpoint and compress it into one particular file path called vtroot. And this is where we restrict any of our processes executing inside our containment to work on, so that they don't interfere at all with my native environment there. And if I enter into the vtroot to see what the scripting has been doing, maybe I enter into users, presale, maybe like pictures. And if you notice in here, there were multiple images, JPG files, and those are all encrypted into some inaccessible format by this cryptic ransomware instance. It's attached a separate file extension, some random characters there, and it's encrypted these files itself. But all this is happening inside my temporarily virtualized memory space, inside my VT root. My native environment should not be affected. So if I enter into my camera roll in my native environment and do a side-by-side comparison, now these are the same pictures in my native environment, which are still intact. Nothing major changes there, right? So that's how we trick any of the unknown file executions to execute upon inside this temporarily virtualized memory space, and we prevent it from affecting the entire of your endpoint. Now, the data what we send across from the endpoint to our cloud service will be the portable executables and the hash files. No major user data is sent back. That way your user data is secured. And when it comes to resource utilization also, it's very minimum lightweight agents what we have, somewhere like 1% to 5% of CPU utilization, somewhere like 25 mix of RAM utilization. That's what we utilize. And it's very lightweight there. Now, in order to stop these process executions, whatever are happening in the endpoint, I can simply get into my client security, tasks, containment tasks, reset the container, and erase the changes. But then as an administrator, you don't really have to get into the endpoint and do all these changes. You can, by default, everything is automated. I wanted you to see how things works in the endpoint. That's why I kept things in a very manual way. Be it like the deletion part, green border, widget, alerting, everything can be automated. And as soon as I erase the changes, a couple of things should happen in here. One, my processes, whatever are executing inside my containment, should be stopped. Second thing, since it's a temporary virtualization, what we are doing, my memory space, which was utilized for this containment, should also be released. That's where I don't really have a trace of VT root in here, which was created for this containment, right? So that's how we protect your endpoint, be it from known bad files or unknown bad files, in a very proactive manner. We allow the end user to work on their files so that their productivity is not actually hampered. When it comes to verdicting of these files, 95% of the time within like 45 seconds, the rest 5% of the time on human backing, it's an SLA of like 4 hours, which we offer. Right? So this is how things get executed in the endpoint. Now, jumping to the platform itself, the management console. Now, this is the management console, what you're seeing. Essentially, this platform is what we have. It's a centrally managed platform, as we say, because along with endpoint related manageability, you have a service desk component, which is an add-on into the product suite itself. If you want, you can use it. If not, you can keep it switched off as it is. Now, the data related to endpoint and the ticketing data will be shown in multiple dashboards in here. So you can customize any of these dashboards simply by moving them around any of these dashboards, switching on or off, so based on your priorities, right? Further, if I click on Applications and Endpoint Manager, now this is where you have your endpoint-related manageability, and also you have the visibility on your security events happening in the endpoint. It's a combined dashboard, but it's well separated so that you can understand where things are. Now, if you want to see the security events, everything is listed under the security subsystems. You can get into any of these subsections based on your use cases. For example, antivirus is for known malicious incidences understanding, and containment is for unknown malicious incidences understanding. So as soon as I click containment, you should be able to see cryptic in here because it executed in one of my endpoints recently inside my containment. Also, as an administrator, you can simply select it. If you want an understanding on this particular application itself, unknown application, select it and get into something called Valkyrie in here. Now, Valkyrie is the verdicting system of Comodo, and it gets a global feed from across like 100 million plus endpoints, whatever you're managing. And based on all the feeds what we get, we put across a good analysis on any of these malicious incidences. For example, this cryptic was known to be a malware. And on runtime basis, you'll have the static analysis, that is the code level executions you can call. And on behavioral aspects, you'll have this dynamic analysis. And on human backing, so you'll have this human expert analysis. And as I said once previously, you can also sign into this particular portal and upload any of the suspicious files, and you should be able to get a human-backed analysis back again. Further on, you can generate a kill chain report for any of these malicious incidences, which goes in a very in-depth level of analysis. For example, the scripting was known to be a high severe malware, and the nature was somewhere like 58% of ransomware, it says. If I click on activity details, I should be able to see the sources from whichever it's been downloading payload maybe, or maybe like writing messages, everything will be listed down in here. Many more things. All the sources will be listed down. I should be able to understand in a process level also by getting into behavioral graph, the parent and child process created, the suspicious calls, the type of it, and all those things. I can see it in here. Further, I can get into behavior summary in order to see the executions or the modifications done by the scripting itself in the endpoint. And if you notice in here, there are like access files, modified files, registries, hash keys, API calls, commands executed, deleted files, many more things like that, right? And all this is just for the cryptic. The detailed analysis will be there in here, which you can compile. All these informations you should be able to compile with screenshots and graphs and things like that into one of the kill chain reports, which is a PDF file. And simply you can submit this particular file to your any of the clients maybe, or management team, or you can revisit for further analysis also. And this is the verdicting system given of us in Comodo. Further on, jumping back to the platform now. Now under applications, there's this vulnerability management. And this is where you have the visibility on your vulnerable incidences happening in the endpoint. Basically, the CV is published by Microsoft, and the devices which are affected by this particular vulnerable incident will be shown. If you want an understanding on this particular vulnerable incident, you'll be provided with the link also. Then you should be able to simply select any of these or all of these devices and install the individual patches for this particular vulnerable incident, right? So you have your visibility on your vulnerable incidents there. Further on, under devices, you have your device list. All your enrolled devices should be listed down under this particular section, and you can create multiple customers. And for one of your customers, you should be able to create multiple subgroups under it based on your use cases, maybe like HR tech team, and apply different policies on a group level also. You should be able to search for your devices. If you select any of these devices, all your RMM ability should kick in. So you can do a remoting into or a file transfer using our own remote control by Itarian app. Also, you can use these remote tools in order to see the files or processes or services in the endpoint. Also execute certain commands in the endpoint. Even the partial based commands also you should be able to execute. And then in order to customize things in your environment, you can run something called procedures. And these are nothing but scripts, JSON or Python based scripts they are. And we have pre-implemented 3,000 plus scripts for our clients globally as of now. If you want to search any of this, simply type in a few keywords, basically based on your use cases, like maybe like network, and all these scripts will be available. You can simply run it in any of your or all of your endpoints. Further, there's a repository, major repository for major of the scripts, whatever we have implemented under this particular open URL called scripts.itarian.com. You can find multiple scripts which we have implemented. You can request for a new script also if a use case is not created. If not, you can write your own JSON or Python based scripts also so that you can customize on your own. Further, you can install any Comodo or any third-party MSI packages. And per endpoint, you have patch status shown here. Again, it is color-coded. The red would indicate critical patches and yellow would indicate unmanaged patches. And if a device is fully patched, it will be in green. But all this is an individual device level patching which you are seeing in here. But even in a global scale also, under applications, you have this patch management, wherein you have your visibility on all your Windows OS patches, and the third-party application patches also, which are available, will be listed down under this particular section. Now you can automate entire of your patching process itself. So be it like approve it automatically and create a custom Windows patch procedure wherein you should be able to schedule it daily, weekly, monthly basis, or by specifying a maintenance window. And you should be able to select the severity or type of patches to be installed, and also the restart options once your patches are installed. So all these things you should be able to control. And then you have your visibility on your software inventory also. You can get into configuration templates, and under it, there's something called monitors, wherein you should be able to do a threshold-based monitoring by specifying a few conditions, basically like maybe like performance, CPU, RAM usage, and all, folder size, disk size, services, whether it is running, processes, Windows event ID base, many more things like that. You can write your own custom scripts, security events, and many others. And once this alerts are triggered, you can bind it to email ID, or you can even send it out to a service desk, wherein a ticket will be generated, and you can assign it to any of the departments or any of the staff members, whoever are working on those tickets itself. So that's how you can manage your things easily in here. There's this DLP, which is right now in a beta phase. And somewhere before Q3 of this year, it should be live. But even now, there are like multiple things which you can do. Basically, you can create two rules, discovery and a monitoring rule. And by creating a discovery rule, you should be able to specify a few patterns, or you can use a predefined patterns. And based on these patterns, you should be able to scan through a target, which is a file group or a drive. And if you find anything suspicious in it, you can take actions on those files itself, like quarantine or block it. You can restrict certain document types also based on these file extensions. And you can set up a monitoring rule for your DLP in order to stop the data getting leaked into USB-like removable storage devices, right? Then there is this network management, where you should be able to create a discovery rule in order to find your managed and unmanaged devices, whichever are there in your endpoint. Further on, there's a SNMP-based discovery also, and you should be able to find your network devices like routers, printers, switches, and all. And you should be able to set up a monitoring for those devices also, specifically on CPU usage and online-offline status and many other things. One last thing on the EAP side is under settings, there's a supported platform. So when it comes to platforms, what we support, so we support from XP to 10, servers 2003 to 2019, Linux multiple environments, Ubuntu, CentOS, Red Hat, Debian. And when it comes to Mac, almost latest Big Sur, Android, iOS, Samsung, Knox, all these will be supported. These are our 24/7 support channel there. Now, this is kind of like a cream of things what I showed you. There are many more things into it, especially on the MDM side, the policies which can go in a very in-depth level, also the service desk and many other aspects there. Now, I'll need to switch into the SOC app also. Now, SOC app is exclusively defined for the MSP customers, wherein under applications, you have something called SOC app in here. And then there is a field called alerts and escalation. And then there's a field called SIM. Now with SIM, now SOC app is nothing but our proprietary SIM tool. And the SIM is where you configure any of your rules in order to parse your logs itself and create a genuine alerting for any of these logs. And then alerts and escalation is nothing but the customer portal, wherein you should be able to see the alerts and escalations happening on any of your customers. And then you have something called SOC app, which is the MSP's view of these customers in a one single plane. So they should be able to see all their customers' view, and they should be able to manage their customers very easily. If I click on the SOC app itself, the first field, I should be able to see the customers, the assets, the managed assets. So total assets are nothing but the devices whichever are there under the device management which were enrolled. Out of these, the managed assets are nothing but the logs whichever are forwarding from any of these devices to our SOC app itself. The protected assets are nothing but whichever has security client installed in it. And you should be able to monitor your Office 365, install a certain sensor, which I'll come in a minute. You should also be able to see the alerts, incidences, and escalations, and many other things. The reports generated also you should be able to see. Further, if I get into the customer health in here, So all your customers should be listed down in here. You can create your customers under management customer. If not, even from here, you should be able to create them. And also you can import it from ConnectWise. Further on, there's many other integrations also are in roadmap, which are coming in like Kaseya and things like that. Then you should be able to see for one of your customers, the total endpoints and the managed endpoints and the protected ones. If you want any of your endpoints to start forwarding any of the logs, it's very simple. You can simply click on that number itself and select that particular device, and you should be able to get them into a managed zone so that the device will automatically be in your managed zone. And then you can start monitoring your Office 365 logs also simply by clicking on Start Monitoring, entering in your client credentials. You can also see there's a sensor installation which you can do. Now, until now, I was speaking about the logs which are getting forwarded from your devices. But in case of your network logs, which are maybe like firewall and things like that. So in that case, you should be able to even analyze those logs also by installing a sensor in your network. And these sensors acts like a syslog server. It's a simple ISO image which we give, which you can install in any of your appliances, and which will forward the logs from your network devices like firewall, Palo Alto, or any other things into our SOC app itself. And those logs also will be monitored. Further, you can even see the alerts and escalation on the individual customer level, even from here. But there's a separate portal for it. And this is the customer portal, which I have already opened up. And these are the two customers which you are seeing in here. Now, for one of your customers, if I get into service summary in here, so I should be able to see the alerts, whatever were passed for any of these customers itself. That is the total events which were processed for this particular customer. And out of this, how many were investigated? Now, even to investigate, you should be able to leverage our SOC team's expertise, as Joe pointed out previously. And they will be able to analyze any of these logs. They'll also be able to create rules for creating genuine alerts, and they'll investigate these alerts. And for these investigated alerts, they'll remove the false positives and generate an incident for you. That is, the incident management is there in here. And for these incidences, the tickets also will be notified. You can simply click on the ticket notified. You'll be entering into the tickets field, wherein you should be able to see multiple tickets in here. You can backtrack, and you should be able to find multiple tickets, whichever are there. And the dashboard looks something like this. The severity and priority of it will be defined in our SIM. I'll show you in a brief moment. These are reported by our SOC team. As a MSP customer, so you should be able to analyze on your own also if you want to. You can simply click on these details, and you can see the responses given by our team on how they work, the attachments, whatever are there. You can also respond to it. Also, you can write or raise any of the new tickets, wherein our SOC team will respond for you. Now, this is a customer dashboard. Under it, you should also have one other thing, that is the reporting in here. Now, there are like predefined multiple reports already available, like weekly reports, maybe, or executive summary reports, incident reports, and many other things. Now, you can customize any of these reports also, or you should be able to ask us for any of the customizations, especially on the compliance perspective, maybe like HIPAA compliance or any other things. And we should be able to help you in implementing any of these reports itself. Our team will help you in do that. This is the customer view. Then getting into the SIM itself. Now, this is the SIM portal, what you're seeing in here. And these are the customers, whatever were there. And for one of these customers, the total events, the log collected security events, everything can be seen. And you should be able to correlate any of these rules itself by getting into rules and correlation rules management. And there are like multiple rules already like predefined. You name it, be it like network logs or Windows logs or any other thing. So you should be able to find the rules specific to those particular events. And you can correlate any of these rules. Now, if you want the help from our SOC team, and they should be able to help you also by understanding your client environments and helping you in creating any of these rules itself. Specify the category of it, the severity of it, and many other things, and create a genuine alert for any of these rules if it is triggered. Also, you can get into an investigation on your own, wherein you can do an event query on any of these. You can choose your customer whom you want to do a query on. You can build your own query if you want to and do a searching. If not, you can use any of these things itself, and you should be able to find the query for it. And you can search any of these events itself. Further, you can even automatically generate a rule for this particular events, whatever are happening, or generate an incident for this also, then you should be able to do an incident management for any of these rules itself. You can get into incident management, and then you should be able to see the incidents itself in here, wherein you can take actions on any of these tickets, like reopen it or report a false positive if you want to. And these reports can also be generated, and you can find those reports under the customer portal also. Right. So as I said, under the SOC app, you have three major things. One, you have your customer portal visibility as a MSP. This is how it looks. Then you have your customer portal, wherein you should be able to see the alerts and escalations. And then for correlating any of your rules, you have your SIM portal. Right. And there are many more things into it, but due to time constraint, I'm restricting it right now. And yeah, so this is kind of like a brief what I had to show you, and I'll leave it back to Joe or anybody to take it up. Right?
Thank you, Ditya.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you much, Ditya, Joe, and Dr. Oskaya. We do have a few minutes for some questions from the audience, if you guys want to fill in there. And I think while we wait for that, I do have some questions here on myself as well. Maybe what is the situation in terms of the service level agreement with Comodo if a unknown threat enters the native environment? How do you guys cover that situation?
Yeah, I'll answer that question. So first and foremost, if an unknown file is trying to execute within that native environment, if our threat intel can't make a determination, as I said, within that 45-second time frame, there's an SLA of 4 hours for our team to reverse engineer that file to get a verdict back to you on that unknown.
And in terms of that kind of feedback, I mean, your SOC team analysis, is that included with the endpoint protection? Can people learn more about what is happening when they sign up?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
The Security Operations Center team, their analysis, is that included with endpoint protection?
Correct. Yes, that is included with the advanced endpoint protection.
Oh, fantastic. I must say, it looks very, very potent in terms of what is offered into the market. But I mean, there are competing products. This is obviously a bit of a primed question. But what makes your, let's say, your security center as a service or as a platform, what makes it different from competitive products? Do you have competitors in the market?
Yeah, absolutely. You can put us up against anyone, right? Any of the traditional SIM tools out there, the Splunks, the Alien Vaults. Really the difference when it comes to SOC as a platform and what we're offering is the ease for it, right? The onboarding process, the service that's included with it makes it much more easier to maintain and onboard your clients, allowing you to build them much easier. Out of the box, we have pre-populated queries as well. So, traditionally with the, as the vendors I just mentioned, you essentially need to hire individuals to specifically manage that, set up the queries, set up the parsers in some scenarios where, our team actually streamlines that process, does it for you, and makes it easier to onboard endpoints with the click of a button.
Fantastic. Thank you, Joe. That was Joe Jagab, the head of partnerships at Comodo. There is a link in our office section. If you would like to sign up or find out more, please head over there. And I would like to thank our guest for today for a very insightful demo and in terms of a new partnership. And the partnership we're talking about here is that Pinnacle has created its cybersecurity solutions, which is its new cybersecurity division. And its partner for this is Comodo. It has gone across the world and looked for a product, a solution that is really catered to the South African market. And we do know the challenges over here. This is one of the most targeted countries for hacks, for attacks. There is new pressure. The Protection of Personal Information Act is being enacted now. The cybersecurity bill has been ratified by President Ramaphosa. So we do know that there is a big escalation in terms of security. I'm going to throw one more thing out there as well. Yesterday, I saw a report from one of the committees on insurance in the US, and they noted a trend we're seeing everywhere. Cybersecurity insurance, the premiums are going up by more than 10% a quarter. It is a very, very big jump. We have to be cognizant of the fact that your old mitigation strategies, such as getting insurance against cyber attacks, is no longer enough. It needs to be intelligent. It needs to be proactive. That's what the market is going to look for, and that is what they're going to look for towards suppliers. If you are one of those service providers who are able to give that level of security in a way that is upfront, affordable, especially cost managed, you will have a big advantage in the market. So please have a look at what Pinnacle and Comodo have put forward today. You'll see Raul from Pinnacle has posted a link inside the chat section. Please click on that to find out more and to sign up. And with that, I would like to thank our guests today. In the chat channel, we've had Georgiana Sergi. She is the pre-sales engineer for Comodo, and she was handling queries in the chat channel. We also heard our first speaker was Dr. Erdal Oskaya. He's the CISO of Comodo. As he said, you can find him on social media, also reach him through Pinnacle. He definitely has a lot to say on the topic. And then Joseph Jagab is the head of partnerships at Comodo, who also gave us a nice introduction to the company there, what they're about. I hope you've enjoyed that presentation. I really enjoyed that demo. I'd like to thank everybody for your time today. My name is James Francis. I was the MC for today's event. Please enjoy your afternoon. Please go have a look what Pinnacle and Comodo can offer you, and we hope to see you at the next one. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.